People to talk more about all this, let's welcome former Biden administration official Kim Clausing. She is professor and economist at the UCLA Law School, and Clete Willems, a former National Economic Council deputy director in the Trump administration, now a partner at Aiken Gump. Let's just start. Let's see. Well, let me start with you, Clint. If the stuff that Trump says at the beginning, how likely is it that that actually is what would be proposed? You've worked with him. Is that really what is going to happen? Are we really headed that way, or is it kind of loose talk?
Well, my advice is to take it seriously, but not necessarily in all cases to take everything literally. I think, as you've indicated, President Trump often likes to test out ideas in public. He likes to negotiate in public. And I think that's a little bit of what's going on here. So as it pertains to this proposal about replacing income taxes with tariffs, I mean, the way that I think about it is that President Trump is very serious about using tariffs to help counteract unfair trade practices. He's also very serious about reducing taxes and extending the tax cuts. And so I expect those to be part of the equation. I don't think you'll see a one-to-one replacement necessarily. And I'd remind everyone that even if the Trump administration wanted to do that, you actually need the U.S. Congress to pass that. I mean, that's something that's statutory. Right. It's not something any administration could just do. So, look, I think it's serious. It directionally shows where a Trump administration would go. But I don't necessarily take all of it, literally in that sense.
Kim, some people were surprised when the Biden administration left a lot of the tariffs in place. And both sides seem to be able to say, well, we're doing it this way, targeted, whatever. But fact remains that we're using tariffs now. And most, at least over the years, most economists would not be in favor of using tariffs to affect whatever you're trying to do globally.
Well, look,
yeah, that's right.
Clete, that was for Kim. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, that's right. And there's a good reason economists aren't in favor of tariffs as a good policy tool. First of all, they're a tax, and they should be best understood as a tax. Despite a lot of confusion about this issue in the Trump campaign, tariffs are paid by consumers. And this new proposal to put a 10% across the board tariff on absolutely everything Americans buy would be a huge tax that would disproportionately burden the poor and the middle class. And it would actually hurt our competitiveness by making it harder to make things in America because we're dependent on global supply chains. And if you can't buy something from Canada or the UK or any trading partner without a big tax, that's going to raise prices, fuel inflation, and be a huge shock to the American economy.
Okay, now, Clete.
Thank you. I jumped the gun there. I was itching to get in. I mean, I think, look, I would take exception to some of that. And I do think if you look at the entire international trading system, it is well recognized that countries are allowed to take tariff actions to counteract unfair practices, including unfair subsidies like Chinese excess capacity. You're also allowed to take tariff action to try to change bad behavior. And one key distinction, I think that's been lost in this discussion, one key distinction between the Trump and the Biden administration is that the Trump administration was actually using these tariffs to try to get more free trade around the world. And if you look at the China tariffs, when the Trump administration put those in place, it was to try to change China's behavior on intellectual property theft, forced technology transfer. And I'll acknowledge we have a mixed record there, but they did make some changes. And if you look at what the Biden folks have done, it's really just reaffirming the entire tariff regime, but without any attempt to engage with China and to change Chinese behavior. And I hear from a lot of businesses who maybe on one hand say, look, I don't want a bunch of new tariffs, but they say what I really like about what the Trump administration did is they used tariffs to fight unfair practices abroad. And right now we're doing nothing when other countries are trying to tax our technology companies. We've rolled back all the efforts to counteract digital services taxes. We're doing nothing to open markets abroad. And so I think you've got to look at this both from the perspective of inputs into the United States, but also using tariffs to fight bad behavior around the world. And that's something we just haven't seen out of the Biden administration.